Tengo mucho miedo de volver a intentarlo. Se siente muy bonito, pero siempre hay algo raro. Lo que diga la gente, la neta, que no me importa. Prefiero a lo que sientes cuando alguien te destroza. No me lastiman mucho, pues ya tengo el alma rota. Mejor no pierdan tiempo y ya cállense la boca. ¿A qué seguirme el rollo si no quería nada serio? No quiero sentir nada, mejor me pongo más ebrio. Guárdate otro toque, mejor nos amanecemos. Y que les quede claro que aquí esto va en serio. Las historias por las que uno ha pasado, la diferencia es que los tiempos ya van cambiando. Tengo el alma vieja por vivir entre los sabios, pero no cualquier vieja puede besar estos labios. Mi estilo es urbano, es el corte que yo cargo. Nunca seré corriente, fui creado en el barrio. El precio de la vida siempre estaré pagando. Aún así disfruto los años que están pasando.
Va a llover otra vez. Voter fraud trial. More compassion and staying out of people's lives. And Brownsville, Texas, ranked number 12, the most miserable city in the United States. It is Friday, August 19th, 7:05 a.m. This is Frankie Olivo, and this is Good Morning Brownsville. We started off today's show with Jose Payan's Alma Rota. We support local artists in their quest to make it big. Toñito Payan, as he is known by his family, did produce and make a music video in downtown Brownsville. So we will be promoting more local artists, whether that be any genre of music, as long as they represent Brownsville or from Brownsville, and more importantly, for those individuals that produce music videos in the heart of downtown Brownsville. We will promote as much as possible. Now, this past week, we've been getting a lot of rain, and we are in the middle of hurricane season, and that should lead us to believe that we should get some sort of tropical storm, cyclone in our area, and that is what we have been seeing as of late. There is a 30% chance of our area receiving large amounts of rain over the weekend. There is a tropical storm brewing in the Bay of Campeche that meteorologists have been following and monitoring. We should get some sort of rain, and again, it just depends on the trajectory of this cyclone. But we do anticipate that this weekend the city of Brownsville should receive 1 inch of rain. The upper part of Cameron County, that is Harlingen and San Benito, should possibly receive 0.5, half an inch of rain. So it is going to be a wet weekend. A tropical cyclone storm is brewing in the Bay of Campeche. We have to prepare ourselves because we know that we are currently in the middle of hurricane season, and we haven't gotten any significant winds, storms in X amount of years. So it's only bound to happen. Are you ready for a hurricane? Is the city of Brownsville ready for a hurricane? It seems as if any time it rains a little bit, the city of Brownsville starts panicking. A few inches of rain causes great flooding within our city. Now, while we are in need of much needed rain because of the low amounts of water in our reservoirs, of the Amistad and Falcon reservoirs, we do feel that Brownsville will not sustain itself if a large hurricane would hit us. But nonetheless, we should be receiving an inch of rain this weekend. and we'll be monitoring to see if we should get anything more impactful coming our area. Now, Elon Musk recently made, well, he's always making news, of course. Every tweet, everything he says makes the news, makes Good Morning Brownsville. But on Tuesday, something very interesting happened. Elon Musk was in the state of Wyoming to celebrate what many have called the loss of Liz Cheney. Republican donors did meet in Wyoming to discuss the party's platform. And the guest of honor was Elon Musk himself. And one thing that has been very interesting has been his political stance. He is no stranger to controversy. He did state in the past that he did vote blue because mostly they were the kindness party, the party of the people. But what has he seen as of late? That the Democratic Party has become the party of division and hate that he could no longer support. And back in May, he did state that he will vote Republican. Now, midterm elections are 90 days away, and these midterm elections will have dire consequences depending on who wins. Elections have consequences nonetheless. But what have we seen from our Democrats here in our local area? That is something that we'll be touching on more in the final segment, the main story or the final story. But one thing, the message that was conveyed from Elon Musk to the Republican GOP party was compassion and stay out of people's bedrooms. That is the message that Elon Musk gave Republicans. They did ask him, what would you suggest for this party, for the Republicans to focus on, to build our platform? And he said, we need to have more compassion towards immigrants. For many years, the idea has been that Republicans hate immigrants, that they favor the working class of American citizens. Now, another important issue that he brought up was stay out of people's bedrooms. Was that targeted towards abortion? Was that targeted towards recently? There have been a battle going on regarding young kids having their gender changed at a young age. That has been something that many individuals have been targeting, liberals, so to speak. But the message, what is the message that Elon Musk gave to Republicans? Focus on immigration, have more compassion, and stay out of people's bedrooms. And the interesting thing that the Republicans have done is they focused on just that. They focus on targeting the Latino Hispanic vote that has been predominantly here in South Texas been controlled by the Democrats. What do we have seen from the GOP? Well, they focused on Latinas. Currently, right now, we have 3 Latinas that are running for the midterm elections here locally. We have Mayra Flores. In Hidalgo counties, we have Cassie Garcia and Monica de la Cruz. Because Monica de la Cruz is the lady in red. She is running for District 15. That is a district that Vicente Gonzalez ran away from. Now, many insiders have stated that Vicente Gonzalez saw the writing on the wall that District 15 was going to turn red. So what did he do? He took the easy way out, according to his camp, and he chose to run in a more favorable Democratic district, which is District 34. But have more compassion, focus on immigrants. The Republican Party have done a great job in presenting itself as a new party of the people. In South Texas, we have 3 Latinas, 3 females that will be running as for the GOP. And let us not forget who Elon Musk voted for. I voted for Mayra Flores, the first time I ever voted Republican. a massive red wave is coming in 2022. Many individuals have stated that Elon Musk is the next Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, Leonardo da Vinci, a great mind in today's world that should be valued. Now, many people here are in awe of Elon Musk because of the potential that we have in South Texas to reach or to colonize Mars, Brownsville to Mars, Boca Chica to Mars. Elon Musk is a businessman. Elon Musk understands the concept of if people aren't producing, we need to get rid of them. He made that choice. He made that distinction when he said that I'm voting Republican. Why? Because the Democrats are no longer a party of the people. The Democrats is a party of division and hate. Elon Musk will be voting for Mayra Flores come November. Who will you be voting for? Will you be aligning and agreeing with the world's richest man that our politicos have not produced? They have not shown compassion. They have not stayed out of our bedrooms. Here locally in South Texas, the politicos have only focused on they themselves and their own agendas, while we continue to be one of the poorest areas in all of South Texas. Now, voter fraud. As we all know, voter fraud is an issue that we have been dealing with for many, many years in Cameron County. But you know what? It seems as if either nobody cares or nobody has the time to deal with this issue. We have been following the trial of the century in Edinburgh. The former Edinburgh mayor is currently on trial for election fraud. And the interesting thing that we have been hearing from this trial has been how the former mayor manipulated, colluded with individuals to change their address. Now, the voting process is one that is very sacred in the United States. Well, should be held very sacred. Why? Because our founding fathers found the need to revolt against the motherland of England. Why? Because they did not have representation. They did not have individuals that were working for them. They didn't have the ability to choose, to have a voice. One reason why we are so proud of living in a democratic nation, in a democratic society, is because we have individuals that enlist in the armed services to protect our freedom of speech, to protect our freedom of religion, and protect our democratic way of living. That is something very sacred that we should always give thanks and praise to those who make the ultimate sacrifice. But this trial has shown us that in the Rio Grande Valley, and I'll focus on RGV because that is what it is important to us, to me. The city of Brownsville and the Rio Grande Valley is something that should be very important to us. And what we have seen throughout this trial is that this former mayor colluded with individuals to change their address, to make sure that they were able to vote in his city. It is alleged, and what is coming, the information that is coming out from the trial has been that this mayor changed the addresses for individuals to his apartment complexes so they could vote. And one of his former allies was a state witness who did state on the record that the mayor said that, hey, it's not a problem. You won't get caught. Everybody does this. It's okay. And it got me thinking, voter fraud. Does voter fraud exist in Cameron County? Don't we have a pending case that brought this up to light as of late? Let us not forget that here in BISD, there was a can of worms that was opened. The Marisa Leal, Minerva Peña saga is still continuing. And let us not forget what a judge found. According to the judge, he did state that there was clear and convincing evidence that illegal votes were casted in the BISD election, and this consists of voter fraud. And who can forget the Marisa Leal, Minerva Peña story? Marisa Leal was sworn in after she won by 1 vote. There was a recount, and magically, 9 to 10, I believe 12 votes in favor of Ms. Minerva Peña came back. Voter fraud. Do we have this here in our local area? We are 2 years away, going on 2 years away from this election, and we have yet to have any updates, any follow-ups regarding this incident. Now, is justice blind in Cameron County? Do we have individuals making the decisions to whether pursue charges? Is that fair and impartial? Do we have selective prosecution? And the interesting thing about the trial or this voter fraud between Marisa Leal and Minerva Peña, the judge found that over 20 votes were illegal, and they found businesses, offices where multiple individuals stated that they lived just to vote in this election. Now, that is against the law. That is voter fraud. How can we state that we live at a certain establishment, a certain office, a certain building that is used for business? What have we heard from our local elected officials, our local law enforcement agencies? The interesting thing was that in Hidalgo County, it wasn't the local DA that stepped in for this voter fraud. It was a DPS and the Texas Rangers. Are we seeing the same thing here in Cameron County, where we have selective prosecution, where perhaps the district attorney's office is not taking a more active role in getting to the details for this case? Why? Because possibly those individuals that did that at the BISD elections were individuals who were supportive of his campaign. Voter fraud, does it exist in our local area? You better believe it. One thing that we have seen is that we seem to have selective prosecution. Why haven't we heard of those individuals being arrested? Why haven't we heard those individuals being brought to justice? Again, voting should be very sacred in the United States. It is very sacred in the United States. What have we seen from our local elected officials, our local law enforcement agencies? We are 2 years from Marisa Leal, Minerva Peña election in November. And we understand that investigations take a while to plug in all those pieces of the puzzle. But have we heard anything? Should we expect anything from our local district attorney to make this an example for many, to show that voter fraud is sacred and voter fraud is something that you do not play with in South Texas? But again, it seems as if here in Cameron County we have selective prosecution. Now, I once again hate to be the bearer of bad news, and you might think, Frankie, you sound like a broken record. Here at Good Morning Brownsville, we take great pride in presenting our community with the different events, the different milestones, music videos being performed at downtown Brownsville by up-and-coming artists. We try our best to highlight and showcase our city for what it is. We have many great resources at our disposal, such as Gladys Porter Zoo, 2 beaches, Musk Island and South Padre Island. We have a Port of Brownsville. We have many great resources at our disposal, but for whatever reason, it seems as if Brownsville, Gmbtx, could never progress. Time in and time out, we have argued and made the claim that we do not have any progress here in our local area. If we drive around the city, we have something to hang our hat on. Can we do we feel confident that in the next 10 to 15 years, our future generations will be able to thrive in this city? It is with great embarrassment that I come to you and state that the city of Brownsville made the news and not for the good reasons. Business Insider did release the 50 most miserable cities in America, in the United States, based on the United States Census data that was provided. And yes, you guessed it, the city of Brownsville is ranked number 12 in being one of the most miserable cities in all of US. Now, let's take a look at what has been transpiring as of late. Do we have economic development in our area? Can we say that our local elected officials, that be our state reps, our congressmen, our congressmen, women in history, and our congressmen, our previous congressmen and senators, what have they done for us? Have they provided jobs? Have they provided economic opportunity? Are you satisfied with your representation? Do our children, do our future generations have opportunity here, resources? Do we have high-paying jobs in the city of Brownsville? You and I can agree that many individuals have to leave our area in order for them to make a decent living. The city of Brownsville was ranked 12th in our local area. Here locally, we do have the city of Brownsville that they have engaged in the North Industrial Park. And their idea is to create a tax revenue for this area. The city of Brownsville has not been able to bring manufacturing jobs, steel mills. It seems as if our commission have not been working together for the betterment of Brownsville. What have we seen? We've seen that everybody seems to pull their own way. We have been fighting and stating, why is all our money, why is all our eggs going into the basket, which is downtown? You and I can agree that this city commission has been solely focused on investing all of its resources, the majority of its resources, downtown. What about Southmost? What about my area by Rivera? What about Las Prietas? What about Military? What about Alton Glore? What about 802? Don't we have areas throughout our city that need love and attention? We can drive around the city and point eyesores in our area. The city of Brownsville was ranked 12th as a miserable city throughout the United States. What have we seen from our local elected officials? That they're only focused on their projects. They're only focused on they themselves. It got so bad, ladies and gentlemen, that the Gladys Porter Zoo, that they have to open up a GoFundMe page to feed the animals. You know how embarrassing that is? The city of Brownsville and Gladys Porter Zoo, it should be a recognized throughout the U.S. The Midi Cultural Foundation has been focusing. The way they got into the city of Brownsville was because they donated money to the Gladys Porter Zoo. Have we been taking care of our resources? You want to know how embarrassing it is to have to answer the questions of, what do you mean your local zoo is creating a GoFundMe page to feed his animals? Doesn't the city of Brownsville allocate a certain amount of money? Aren't they always in search of grants? Now, the most embarrassing thing to have is an entity such as Gladys Porter Zoo that is recognized throughout the United States, and we don't have enough to pay. We don't have enough to pay. Have a great weekend, Virginia. Thank you for your time. We don't have enough to pay for food for animals. Now, this is not including the employee salaries. This is just for the animals. And their goal was $32,000. Doesn't the city of Brownsville have $32,000? Are we so focused on providing jobs for our compadres and making sure that our local bike trails are set up? We don't have enough to feed the animals. Is that embarrassing or is that just me? Also, if we look at the county level, what have our local elected officials done during the pandemic, when the world was at a standstill, when jobs weren't hiring, when individuals were suffering from being fired because of COVID, because of the pandemic? What do we see? We saw our local elected officials give themselves a raise. Now, who do we know? Who do we know that during the pandemic received a substantial raise during the pandemic? It seems as if the elite are only focused on using the resources for the city and for the county to better themselves, to enrich themselves. Haven't you noticed that everything is A-okay for them? Whenever we bring up a certain concern, complaint, they say, what's wrong? Like, everything's going good. Yeah, everything's going good for a certain amount of people. Everything's not going good for the rest of Brownsville. Again, I live by Rivera. I see eyesores every day. We travel to Southmost. There's not much attention there. Las Prietas, same thing. If you go downtown, it is majestic. Streets of gold, it seems. The city of Brownsville was ranked 12th in one of the most miserable cities in our area. And I hate to sound like the violin. And you might think that I am, that I'm always complaining about the same old things. But it should piss us off, ladies and gentlemen. It should tick us off. It should piss us off because we should treat our politicos just like we treat a business. If I was in charge of your finances, if you come to Frankie, you say, hey, look, Frankie, here's my portfolio. I want you to give me a breakdown every 4 years. I want to know my wins and losses. I want to know what I should focus on. Give me a rundown. Check back with me. I come back to you and I say, okay, well, I have not provided any jobs. I did put you in the red, in the hole, $5 million, possibly $7 million, depending on who you ask. I gave myself a raise during the pandemic, but I promise you, if you give me 4 more years, I will bring you jobs. I will make sure that your loved ones, your son and daughter, have opportunity so they won't have to leave. I will make sure that I will bring you $20 jobs, $25 jobs. What would you tell me, Frankie? You had 4 years. You had 4 years to work on this. And what have you shown me, Frankie? You showed me that you have not created jobs. You showed me that you gave yourself a raise during the pandemic when nobody was hiring, when there was a freeze in hiring. But these politicos gave themselves the $11,000 raise. Would you give me another 4 years, or would you say, Frankie, you're fired? You have not produced, Frankie, in a business. I will be fired. We should treat our local politicos the same way. And let us not forget that back in 2011, this is an issue that the Business Insider, when they ranked Brownsville as number 12 being the most miserable city, this isn't something that happened from night to day. This is something that they woke up and said, look, they're doing bad 1 year. Let's rank them number 12. Let's go back to 2011. Let's go back a decade. Texas Monthly published that according to the U.S. Census back in 2011, McAllen and Brownsville occupied number 1 and number 2 slots of being America's poorest cities. What have we done since 2011? Have we seen economic opportunity? Have we provided jobs to make a decent living? We all know the answer to that. Elections are coming up in November. These politicos will ask you for your vote. They will say that they are the right person for that job. The city of Brownsville is ranked number 12 in the most miserable city. What has our city commission done to provide economic opportunity? What has our Cameron County Commissioners Court done to provide us with the essentials to have a great quality of life? You know who has a great quality of life? The politicos, their families. You think they're struggling? You think they're living paycheck to paycheck? By no means, ladies and gentlemen. It pains me to come before you and state the bad things that are happening in the city of Brownsville. We have been taken advantage from. We have been held ransom by our local Democratic Party, but they instill fear in us and say, you better not turn red. You better not turn Republican because you're a Mexican and because you were born this way. You should vote Democrat. We should treat our politicos just the way we treat business. If I come to you with a loss of $5 million and I ask you for 4 more years to fix this, would you? You would say, Frankie, you had your time. You had your opportunity. Now it's time for me to choose somebody else that will give me the return, that will give me the results that I need. Are these politicos giving you those results? The city of Brownsville, ladies and gentlemen, was ranked 12th as one of being the most miserable city in the U.S. And this isn't something that happened from night and day. Back in 2011, according to the U.S. Census, the city of Brownsville and McAllen were ranked 1 and 2 as being one of the poorest cities in our area. And that, my friends, is the rest of the story. Va llover otra vez. We should be expecting some rain this weekend. There is a 30% chance of a tropical storm brewing in the Bay of Campeche, which should bring us some much needed rain. We also are in hurricane season. Voter fraud trial. In Edinburgh, we have been seeing the trial unfold and how the mayor, along with his friends, they changed addresses. They committed voter fraud. We see what happened in BISD, how a judge stated that there was clear and convincing evidence that voter fraud occurred in the BISD election. What have we seen from our local law enforcement? We're going on 2 years since that event. Is this investigation slowly taking its course where they're trying to put all the pieces to the puzzle together? Or are they merely avoiding this? Again, in the Marisa Leal, Minerva Peña trial, individuals were voting and stated that they lived at a business, at a warehouse. That is against the law. Are we seeing selective prosecution from our local district attorney not enforcing that law? Seems that way. More compassion and stay out of people's lives. That is the message that Elon Musk gave Republicans this past Tuesday in Wyoming. He said, focus on immigration, have more compassion on immigration. Republicans took that to heart, it seems, because they do have 3 Latina women who are vying for this upcoming election in November to take seats in South Texas. Latina women, Republican. Will that be what it takes? Again, our area has reigned supreme by the Democrats. What have they done for our local area? Nothing. They have enriched themselves. And the city of Brownsville is ranked number 12 as being one of the most miserable cities. What have we seen from local elected officials? That they focus on their projects. The city of Brownsville is downtown. Gladys Porter Zoo needed to create a GoFundMe page to feed its animals. You want to know how embarrassing that is on the world stage? That's embarrassing when a city can't maintain its animals. Our local elected officials gave themselves a raise during a pandemic when there was a hiring freeze, when people weren't able to work. Nobody was giving raises, but our politicos found it in themselves to give themselves a raise. Brownsville, Texas is ranked number 12 as being one of the most miserable cities. But you know what? We have a chance to change that, and that is through our vote. Make sure you vet your candidates and ask them the tough questions of saying, will you be working for me or will you be working for yourself? And that, my friends, is the rest of the story. It is Friday, August 19th, 7:37 a.m. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. Hope you all have a great weekend, and I hope to see you here on Monday. God bless.